Hello, I'm Harry King, this is Buckle Up, and it's happening. Oh my god, it's happening. I'm driving a Jaguar XK. So we'll start as usual at the front, we're talking about the design. So the first thing to note is this grille. Now, people often talk about the late 90s, early 2000s, the revival of retro. You've got the new Beetle or the new Mini. I think this partially falls into that category because that grille is 100% stolen from the E-Type. There's no question about it. As is this power bulge on the bonnet. They're just E-Type. That's why that's there. That's Jaguar delving into their heritage and going, look, we can still make exciting cars. The rest is a little bit more modern. You've got these larger headlight clusters that aren't stolen from the E-Type, and they do have little washers in there. I think what I want to do though is actually open up this power bulged bonnet and show you the engine. This is Jaguar's AJ V8, and it was brand new for this car. It's an engine they're still using today, albeit in a different displacement. This particular one is the original 4-litre unit with 290 horsepower naturally aspirated, and it goes to a 5-speed ZF gearbox in this model. In the XK8 it's actually a 5-speed Mercedes-Benz gearbox, but this one is a ZF. So it's basically, even when you buy a Jag now, you'll get pretty much these ingredients. If you get a proper Jag with a V8, that is. It will still be a V8 and a ZF gearbox. That is kind of the recipe at this point. It also happens to be one of my favourite sounding engines in production. It's big though, and it was designed under the, well, or by Ford, sort of, but it was designed by Jaguar and built by Ford. And actually there's only 2 components in this engine that it shares with contemporary Ford motors. Just look at it. It's brilliant. Speaking of things that are way too big, should we go and look at the boot? Now, one of the things people didn't like about this car when it came out is the size of this caboose. It was specifically designed so you could fit 2 golf bags under here, and I actually like the way this car looks. I like that it has a large rear overhang. I don't know why that is. I like cars with rear overhangs. I also like the Honda Accord Estate. Never thought that this car and that car would be in the same sentence, really. I'm going to open it and show you what truly is a cavern. Look at that. I mean, you could fit a full rack of beef ribs. It's just, I always forget how big golfists insist on their bags being, but what that means for the rest of us normal human beings is this becomes a very practical GT car where you've got enough space for, well, probably 2 bits of hold luggage, let alone 2 bits of hand luggage. Other features of the boot, this is a false floor. Underneath you'll find the space saver spare wheel, and you'll also find the battery under here as well. But that's about it. There's not a huge amount of features, there's just a lot of room. Let's get on to the other cool thing about this car though. It's a convertible. So here it is for everyone on YouTube who always insists on having a convertible show its roof mechanism in the video, because for some reason if you don't see it, it doesn't exist. Here's how the roof works on this car. So I press a button in the center console and then this happens. It's quite slow. And it's done. Tells me that with a little friendly bingly bong. I'll show you a close-up of how that button works as well, because it's gone a little bit Jaguar. So now we're going to move on to the interior. So obviously I've started outside, but the first thing we're going to try and do is climb in these back seats that look like they weren't necessarily designed for people with legs. I'll start by detaching this. So that through the fast process. Oh, there we go. So that's that dealt with. And then actually I might just, is it this one? No, what's that doing? No, that's that. There we go. Just do this. So I'm just going to move this seat probably all the way forwards, and then we'll do this, and then we'll see if I can sit in the back. Oh, and no, No, I can't sit in the back. Not even with the seat all the way forwards. And yeah, that's where my leg, and also I'm sat bolt upright and diagonally leant over. My legs go here, but the backrest puts me here. So I'm sort of sat facing outwards from the car. It's not, this is a glorified shelf. It's definitely, you couldn't even put children in here. Maybe in the coupe, but no, just no, don't. Not safe for human consumption. Rob would just like it to be known that he can fold himself in. You look, he's got all the space he would ever want, right, Rob?
It's so capacious.
Your face has it's a look of torture.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. It's perfectly comfortable.
Now, here in the front is quite a lot more spacious than the back seats, obviously. And if you look, they've inserted half a tree into the car, so the entirety of the dashboard is walnut, as is a lot of the center console. But then they've slightly tarnished themselves they've covered it all in wood and then just made this plastic. So I believe in the later models this became chrome. So that's definitely an improvement. If you get a later model, you'll get a slightly nicer center console. As we showed earlier, this has somewhat deteriorated over time. It also has broadly similar gauges to my X-Type, but they're laid out very differently and there are more of them. But it's the same green TFT screen that doesn't use any punctuation in here. And then these dials are actually, they're like inset into the dash. So they're perfectly pointed at me, but I guess if you were shorter, they wouldn't be as great. And if you're taller, you can't fit onto the roof, so they haven't catered to everybody there, have they? In the center, you have another mess of buttons. That's quite 90s Ford, really. It's just a lot of black plastic buttons. And then on the steering wheel, there is also too many buttons. And this is an early car. As the time went by, they added more features and more buttons, but didn't add any more surfaces to press the buttons. So they just kind of ended up everywhere. But even as it is now, these are all your cruise control controls, apart from the setter. That's here. So cruise control is here and here. That is a sports button, I'm assuming. And then you have some volume controls here for the stereo that's only there. I feel like that it's not, I don't know. Material quality in here, well, as far as the dash and the seats go and the carpet, they're all fairly nice. The carpet does have a hint of the 70s to it, but the leather is nice, and in most places. I have just noticed I could put my fingers fully under this center console here, though, and then you can feel the plastic underneath. These are too big to be useful, because if I put them down like this, I literally can't see the road ahead of me. But then they go no. And then if you put them up, that just stays open. It's very Jag. It's so very Jag. And you know what? I'm pointing all these things out, and all of them are just making me like it more. I'm just absolutely loving this car. This has got wood on the steering wheel, and it feels terrible, but it's so Jag. I assume if I open the glove box, my wallet will already be in there. Speaking of the glove box, interior storage is okay for a sporty coupe Grand Tourer thingy bob. There is enough space left in here for something else. I believe this does actually properly live up there, but it's got a bit fat over the years from service records, so it doesn't fit in there anymore. But you would have a full glove box you would have a full glove box otherwise. There, that's closed. These are cup holders. I'm going to open them now, and you're going to see how useful they are. So that's it open, and now I'm going to try and close it. Oh, it's broken again. They don't operate as cup holders anymore. There is a center console, but you would struggle to even fit CDs in there. I guess you'd fit in your phone charger or one of these jobs, but not much else. And this is where the 12-volt socket for the cigarette lighter is, but over the years the mechanism's become a bit, it's gone a bit Jag. And that's about it. There are some door pockets. They're not big enough for anything. Now, massive advantage of having rear seats no one can use is you can just use them to put all your stuff in, which is what most people do in the 2+2, is you just put things on the back seat. So that's probably what I would do as well, because that's alright, that's mediocre, that's broken, and there is more to be usable. Let's go into what it does best and take it on a drive. So, driving the Jaguar XK8. It's probably no secret that I do like Jags, seeing as I own one, but I will try to be as measured as I can. We'll see how that goes. The seat, or the cockpit. Big car, surprisingly cramped. I was all the way back in the seat, so if you're any taller than me, I'm 180 centimeters or 5'11", whichever takes your fancy, your legs aren't going to be ideally situated. You will feel too close. And in terms of headroom, I had, again, just enough. Rob would not have been able to comfortably drive the car. Jasper would have been fine, but Rob would not have been able to comfortably drive the car. Obviously, if you put the roof down, you can deal with their headroom issue, but in terms of the seat moving back any further, that's that. So, not a car, if you're tall, you'd actually be better off with something like an MX-5, perversely. The controls also definitely feel dated, especially the J-gate shifter. I had a go at doing the whole using it feels old. And that gearbox it's not on it. It's definitely an old-fashioned automatic gearbox. It does have 5 speeds, which is a good thing, because otherwise that engine would be even thirstier than it is. When I got in the car, the average MPG was listed as 16 miles to the gallon, and it is owned by an older gentleman, so he will not be driving it on its door handles. It's a big, relatively, I mean, it's a modern V8, it's dual overhead cam, quad valve, all of that stuff, but it's also kind of an old-fashioned fire-breathing V8, and it does just drink fuel. The engine is brilliant, though. The exhaust note is quite muted in the car, even with the roof down. You don't hear that much of the exhaust, but if you ever get out and listen to the exhaust sounds brilliant. The engine's great. The pickup at high revs is fantastic, but that gearbox means that this is not a performance car. It's 7 seconds to 60, I believe. That's also because the convertible weighs about 1.8 tons, so it's not a light car either. That's even heavier than a modern Porsche Turbo S, and it's only got 295 horsepower, so it's not screaming acceleration. But the acceleration is still good. It still feels sporting, but it's definitely the Grand Tourer. It's not a racing car. It's definitely wafting. It's a wafting car. You could set the cruise control and just go on and on and on and on and on. It's lovely for that. And that's the other thing is all of the inputs and the feel from the suspension and everything. It's definitely more cosseting and comfortable than it is sporty. Lots of body roll. The steering is almost exactly the same feel as my X-Type Estate, weirdly. It's the same level of assistance. And yeah, not a huge amount of feel through the steering column itself of what the road is doing. Definitely GT spec. Now, if that's what you want a car for, though, my God, is it good. I could have driven that car hundreds of miles, and this is a car that's older than me, and it's still completely, it's on the same level as the Lexus. It's been pushed to that level of comfort and refinement where it's still, in terms of comfort and refinement, it's still up there with modern cars. And if you just want a comfortable car to prowl about in on a sunny day, I would really thoroughly recommend one, because this is the moment for XK8s. It was XJS's, and 20 years before that, it was E-Types, but there's always a period where the Jaguar big coupe/convertible thing is at insanely low prices, and then it will start picking up, but not for another 5 or 10 years yet on the XK8s, I don't think. They're going to be the cheap ones for a while yet. So you can pick one of these up, like a good one, for 10 grand, which is the same amount of money you would pay for, like, a pretty ropey Porsche Cayman or a Boxster. I'd take one of these. Yeah, you can't rag it at a racetrack, but when you buy an older car, if your plan's to rag it on the racetrack, you're going to be spending so much money. It's so much wear on the car. Whereas if you're just planning to buy something to pootle around in on sunny Sundays and, I don't know, go drive to some picture, drive it to Tan Hill, for example, it's a very strong contender. It feels, it's like a luxury car that's just been compressed into a track suit. I don't know if that analogy works, but it's the next J-Jag. It just looks sporty, but it's got a great engine noise. I think it looks fabulous still, even. I know the bulbous boot some people don't like,
but I think the proportions of the car are good and right. It's got a flavour of the E-Type in it, but it looks more modern, but it doesn't look like already looks kind of classic, if that makes sense. And it's comfortable to drive, comfortable to sit in. Obviously, with the roof down, the visibility is amazing. With the roof up, it's still pretty good. The glass window in the roof is of a decent size. The mirrors are of a decent size. The backs of the chairs actually aren't too intrusive. It's one thing you will find if you're slightly broader shouldered. Both me and Rob, our shoulders were wider than the tops of the chairs. They do that sort of just narrowing to the headrest thing that some older sports cars seem to do. So there's not shoulder support there. But again, you're not doing mad cornering maneuvers because the car can't handle it. You're just cruising around. So it was fine. It wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't pushing into my back or anything, just it wasn't a supportive seat in that sense. You'll have to get used to the buttons. I could work out the buttons because I've got a Jag that also has too many buttons in it, and you know what the icons mean already. But there's like 4 or 5 different places the buttons appear in that car. It's just too many. They obviously didn't consider how many buttons they would need, and it's a clear example of why cars now have touch screens. And I know people complain about buttons being put in touchscreens, but at least you know they're in there somewhere. This car just had them kind of strewn about the cabin. And yeah, it looks confusing when you get in, and it's a bit intimidating, but they're quite easy to figure out. And once you know where they are, that's fine. I would just say that's definitely a down mark for it. Down mark for that. Down mark for the gearbox. It's a bit sluggish. Down mark for the overall weight, because you can tell it's heavy. But the interior still, it feels like an old-fashioned Jag. Everything's leather and wood, and it feels like sitting in an Edwardian drawing room or something. And then the engine is just brilliant. And that engine continues to be brilliant to this day. I think the AJV8 might be the best sounding engine currently on the road. Maybe when the T50 comes out, it might overrule that. But obviously, nearly everything else now is turbocharged. Can you still get an NA? No, I don't think you can still get a naturally aspirated one on the road. But even the forced induction ones are supercharging. And supercharging sounds better than turbocharging. So a Range Rover Sport or an F-Type or something like that sounds better than just about any other car. Only other strong contenders left are Porsche GT3 and I guess Lamborghini and Ferrari and the Gordon Murray designed 250 when it comes out. But it's a pretty short list. And in terms of volume manufacturers, Jaguar Land Rover has it nailed by still using this amazing V8. It's just such a good noise. And even in that very old, that's the original one that I was driving, still picks up brilliantly, still sounds amazing. I genuinely one of those cars you could buy for the engine. I mean, the rest of the car's alright. It's like I've said, it's about what you want. If you want a luxury coupe, then perfect for you. I would have it in a heartbeat. I think that might be obvious. If you want a sports car, meh. But if you like V8 engines, it's definitely one you need to experience. It's properly good. More exciting than the Toyota one, which is probably as competent, more competent than it in, actual engineering terms, but the Jaguar was just felt more exciting. Sorry, I should just say the brakes are good. The brakes are fine. Not amazing, not astounding, but they're confidence-inspiring, good feel, nicely progressive. Never doubted them. Just sort of suit the car. So yeah, I think it's kind of obvious what my thoughts on this car are at this point, but we will throw it back to me for a conclusion.
So there we go, the Jaguar XK. It might be your dad's Jag, but I like it quite a lot. It's sort of smoking jacket with a shotgun hidden inside it. It's priest who likes to do chainsaw carving on the weekend. It doesn't quite go together, except it goes together perfectly somehow. Yeah, the auto is a bit of a downside, but my god, that engine. Insert another audio clip of the engine just there. And it's comfortable, and there's leather everywhere and half a tree on the interior, and you can just cruise around in it endlessly, and you've got 30 million miles of headroom, and I want one. I want one. I might go and ask the owner if I might just take this one. I might just nick it. Don't tell anyone. So guys, remember to like and subscribe, comment down below if you have anything to say about my trousers, and find all of our links for everything in the description. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, Drive Tribe, Reddit, TikTok, who knows? what we might have next. And also, we have a merch store, and go and buy lots of merch, please, because I want enough money to buy one of these. So, I reckon if we sell like 2,000 t-shirts, yeah, thereabouts. If one of you could go and buy 2,000, or if all of you could go and buy one t-shirt, that would be great. And I promise I'll buy one of these and take you out for rides in it at the weekend. If you send me a tweet or something, we'll get that sorted. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Are you going to mention your trousers or not?
No. Why would I mention my trousers, Rob?